All right. I want to introduce Tiffany Mason to you. She's from VirtuallyYou. She is an incredible podcaster. If you haven't heard her story, I highly encourage you to have a one-to-one with her. And she's going to be talking about the benefits of podcasting and the impact it can have on your business. But you need to market it or it will never have an impact. And so we're going to be hearing from you today, Tiffany, on how to go about this. The floor is yours. Unmute yourself.
There we go. Okay. What screen can you guys see right now? Is it a picture of a wave?
No.
Okay, good. Okay. I don't know with this screen sharing business. So, you know, I can edit podcasts, but to do some technology stuff, you know. Anyways, so who am I? Tiffany Mason, CEO of VirtuallyYou. Thank you so much for your attention and for this opportunity, Isis. Who am I? I am a podcaster. I have a podcast. It's called Memories with a Beat. And multiple people from this group have actually been on my podcast. If you yourself have a song that you just love, when you hear it come on the radio, you're like, oh man, I remember whatever. Then I would love to interview you and speak to you about that song. Podcast producer. So that's what I'm here talking about today. Why podcasts? And then I want to show you guys a little bit of what I do. And the production end of it is the, outro, intro, editing, leveling out voices, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try to show you guys a little piece of that. Episode amplifier. So once you guys, or once a person has a podcast episode, it's really important to take little pieces from that episode and repurpose it and post it to get more exposure. I'm going to go over that in a minute. And then podcast Facebook. So if you know anybody who has a podcast and they want to be a part of a group that, you know, can ask questions and support each other, it's called Podcast Possibilities. It's going to be at the end of this little presentation. So you'll see it then. Okay. So why podcasts? Multiple reasons. And these are just a few, and I'm sure I don't have everything on here, so I'm sure I'll leave something out. But the rule of 7 is really old, I think. I think it's probably more like 15 now, that you need to get in front of somebody 15 times before they're thinking like, okay, maybe I want to do business with this person. So the idea is to take bite-sized pieces out of each episode. So maybe we make an audiogram, and maybe you guys have seen those. It's a static picture and it's got the waveform going across the bottom. That's called an audiogram, and it's really to get people to stop scrolling. The other sad thing is that the reason why you have to post so many times is that the algorithm doesn't let us see what everybody posts, right? So Isis can post 23 things and I may see 2 or 3 of them. So that is the bummer of social media, but that's also the beauty of having the podcast. So as your business in general, you may not know, you know, Debbie Joe, you might get tired of saying, try this face cream, try this face cream, try this face cream. But now you can say, hey, I've got this podcast, and actually I hope it's okay, but I take care of Debbie Joe's podcast, and we throw commercials in there. And so she can have a commercial about her product, but she doesn't have to jam it down somebody's throat. They can be listening to the podcast, enjoying the content of the podcast, and get to hear about her product, but it doesn't have to be the main reason. So it gives you another reason to reach out to your audience, but it doesn't have to be necessarily completely on point with your business, if that makes sense. The other fact that you can grab 20 plus pieces of content from one episode. So you could talk about the review of the episode. You can talk about something that the guest said. Maybe they have a book, or maybe they have a webinar, or they have a free masterclass coming up, something, you know, to that extent where they have something that they're offering. You can talk about those items as well, but you're still getting to be in front of people frequently. And that's really the name of the game, right? With social media, we have to be in front of people, in front of them. And how do you do that every day without talking about the same exact thing? This gives you a lot more to talk about, but you're talking about an episode that was about your business. So it's kind of beautiful. The other thing is people can multitask. So a lot of people like podcasts because they can have it on the background. They can be working on some stuff. They can go for a walk, a jog. They could be mowing the lawn. They could be commuting, whatever it is. And they can do that, you know, eyes free, hands free, but still get the content and learn. And I know I did that actually in the beginning. That's how I fell in love with podcasts. I had a job where I drove a whole bunch. And so I was just absorbing as much information as I could while I would drive around town. The other thing is the more you post, the more you will become top of the organic search. So it increases your SEO. And that also means that more people are getting exposed to you. And I love the joke that, you know, you can find the dead body on page 2 because it's true. We all go to page 1 and after that, we're kind of done with it. We found the information we wanted and it kind of stems from there. The other thing that I would like to bring up is that when you have your podcast on different platforms, you are finding audience in a different area. So like my podcast automatically uploads to YouTube. I don't go on YouTube. I don't really interact with anybody on there, but somebody might come across that and go, you know what, let me go check this chick out on social media, see who she really is, what she's got going on, right? So you're pulling people from their natural area where they're naturally consuming content, and now they're going to go and come check you out. So those are some excellent reasons why you would want to have a podcast. What we do with VirtuallyYou, you send us your podcast, we clean it up. Sound is king, man. It is so important. You know, I have a couple of people who say, oh, I don't know, I just cut the end in the beginning off and then I publish it. And it's like, oh, it just kind of kills me because it's like, you can have the best content, but if you don't have a well-formatted show, then forget about it because people don't want to listen to it. Not well-formatted. I mean, it should be well-formatted, but if it doesn't sound good is what I meant to say. So if there's, you know, clicking in the background, or maybe you say like a whole bunch, these are things that will distract a listener. And pretty soon they may say, you know what, I'm done. I can't focus on this. I just don't want to listen to it. So you would never want to ruin somebody listening to the content that you're trying to get out there. So sound is king. And then what do? So there's an option to just send it back to you and say, okay, your episode is done. But there's another thing that we can do where we can post it. So a lot of people don't realize you have your raw audio, you have a podcast host, and then it goes out to different destinations through your podcast host, like Apple and such. So these are just a few on the left-hand side of the screen that you would consider for a podcast host. And if podcast is something that you are thinking about, I have a freebie on my website. It has a whole checklist for you to go through. And this is one of the categories where you would think about the podcast host that you want, features that you want from the podcast host. Are analytics really important to you? Do you really want to make sure that they have all these integrations for you? I know Anchor has quite a few integrations. Or, you know, are you wanting to trust somebody that's been around a little bit longer? So that gives you some ideas there. And then on the right-hand side, this is another freebie that I have, and it's really just all the destinations. You know, a lot of people come to me and I say, okay, choose where you want your podcast to go. And that doesn't make sense until they're in that process and they're going, okay, what do I need to do now? So these are the ones, and I really did them in order of where you would want your podcast. I was just listening to one yesterday from Libsyn, who's my podcast host. And they said that Apple is still 4-1, the number one destination you'd want your podcast on. So even if you don't have an Apple device, I would still say get your podcast on Apple Podcasts, because that is really where people are consuming content. And then the last thing that we do with a podcast is we promote it. So it's important to put it on social media. I've talked about repurposing a little bit already. And you really are trying to grow your presence and grow your downloads. So if you are looking to monetize your podcast, if that's something that you hear a friend say that has a podcast, you know, how do I monetize it? You really need those downloads and those listens. And the way that you would want to do that is, and this is really for all social media, look at your insights. See when your people are on social media. Are they on at lunchtime? Then that's when you'd want to post about your new episode. That's when you'd want to post a quote from your episode. That's when you'd want to post a picture about the person that you interviewed, right? And then the other thing is you can see what's performing well. And you can actually go into your podcast host, which I talked about on this previous screen on this left-hand side, and they will give you stats. And sometimes you have to pay for the more detailed stats, but it'll let you know what platform people are going to, if they're listening all the way through it, what episode really got a lot of people's attention. Maybe it was shared a couple of times with people. So those are a lot of information that you can grab from your podcast host as well. But promoting is, of course, the most important thing, because you're trying to grow that know, like, and trust factor with your listeners, right? And so they may see you, just your website, your friend says, hey, check this guy out. Okay, fine, great, whatever, right? But if you actually sent them to your podcast, they can hear your voice, they can hear your personality, they can hear what you're all about and your passion, or, you know, how much you really do know about the topic. So, excuse me, that's really important. I don't know why. Oh no. Okay, just a minute. Hold tight. Okay. No, we gotta go back one. This is the podcast possibilities. It's my Facebook group. If you have a podcast, you want to start a podcast, again, this is a great place to go support each other. And I try to share things in there. I'm not super active, but it is a place. And if you post something, I will definitely reply to it. So, if you have questions, come to me. Oh, I don't know why this keeps happening, you guys, but it says thank you. And then let's go to a quick demo. So I want to do that before I run out of time. And so I wanted to show you guys, and I hope you guys can hear this, maybe turn your volume up. But I wanted to show you guys some of the things that I do to audio. So this is a sound of an echo.
Join us next time as we share, advocate, and highlight.
Can you guys hear the echo in there? Okay. And then what I do is I go down here and I turn on my little tool.
Join us next time as we share, advocate, and highlight.
And do you hear how much better he sounds?
Ideals from nonprofit.
Okay, now I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to click it on and off so you can hear it.
Join us next time as we share, advocate, and highlight experiences and ideals from nonprofit colleagues, leaders.
And I know that it's kind of hard to hear, but it really is taking a lot of that out. And then I can turn that up and I can turn that down. Then the next one I want to show you is this one has a lot of static in it. Oops. This one has a lot of static in it.
The difference between
Can you guys hear all that static?
excuses
So then again, oh, that's not what I meant to hit. This one.
and creating balance in your health.
And it zaps it right out. Okay, and then the last one that I wanted to show you guys is just a little editing, just regular editing, not using any tools. But when she speaks, she kind of makes a smack sound.
Today, we're going to be
Indulgences,
talking
personally,
about
I have,
the difference between chocolate cover, dark chocolate.
Sorry. So this is from the same one where the static is still there. So I will take that out. But what I do is I go in here, I trim it, I move it over it, and now she doesn't make a smack sound.
Chocolate cover, dark chocolate.
So those are just some things I do. I'm running out of time. So I just wanted to thank you guys for your time. If you wonder what I do, now you hopefully have a better grasp on that. I say post-production, people don't know what that exactly means. So I hope this gives you an insight into Virtually You. And if you know of anybody looking for help with their podcast, I'd love to help.
Great job, Tiffany.